Thank you for coming. You know, I put a, and I think Raheem Kassam has just put it up. The first statement I think I made from Danbury was about 4 weeks ago, September 26th. I said, victory is at hand. That you can see the collapse of this kind of phony campaign by Kamala Harris, the politics of joy, right? And she had nothing to back it up whatsoever. And you could see the beginning in the polls start to come our way. I'm very proud that the War Room has had President Trump's back, and it particularly has been the platform for the grassroots movement to have their voice heard. And I said at that time that with the hard work of the Get Out the Vote effort and the election integrity effort, that we were on the cusp of having an incredible victory that could actually be a potential landslide. Now we come to today, and I'm finally out of being a political prisoner by the Merrick Garland, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi regime. Okay, for standing up for my political beliefs against an illegitimate committee in the House that did not have a ranking member and did not have minority counsel. I went to a federal prison for 4 months. Now, Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris and Merrick Garland thought they were going to do two things. Number one, they were going to shut down the War Room and not have that as a voice for the grassroots movement of MAGA in this country. And number two, break me. Well, I think you can see today I am far from broken. I've been empowered by my 4 months at Danbury Federal Prison. Why was I empowered? Because I was able to listen, to observe, and to learn from working class minorities, young African-American men and Hispanic men, and yes, Puerto Rican men, about what their lives are and what the queen of mass incarcerations, which is what they believe that Kamala Harris is. She refuses, and she has refused as border czar, to commence any mass deportations of illegal alien or illegal migrant criminals in this country. And today, President Trump with the angel moms actually had to say, we need to set up a form of restitution to reimburse these folks. Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, as the border czar, has refused to do that and continue on the mass incarcerations. Now, President Trump, and quite frankly, with the visionary leadership at the time of Jared Kushner, President Trump came up with the most significant prison reform bill ever created, the First Step Act. And today, 6 years after, and 4 years into the Biden regime, of which Biden in 2020 promised and committed to dramatically decrease the number of incarcerations in federal prisons, and nothing has been done. Nothing has been done. You know, this is criminal negligence by the highest, at the highest levels of BOP, Bureau of Prisons, and the Justice Department. You have particularly minorities, African Americans and Hispanic men and their families being broken, rotting in federal prisons, when the First Step Act is very clear of what's supposed to happen, and all they do is get spun and spun and spun. The system is broken. Bureau of Prisons is broken. This is not about Danbury and not about the individual. I have many good individuals working at Danbury Federal Prison. The system of the BOP, the system of the Justice Department is broken. They have weaponized the Justice Department against a political movement, a conservative grassroots movement that's had President Trump's back, and from the dark days of February, March, and April of 2021 is on the cusp of the biggest political comeback in the history of this nation, led by grassroots people, everyday Americans, including, as we know now from the polling, and the reason I said we're on the cusp of a massive victory, she is failing to connect with minority men, Hispanic and African-American men. Now, why is that? They understand what the scam is. They understand that this administration purposely let in millions of illegal alien migrants, illegal aliens, to drive down labor costs. The Federal Reserve said it from the very beginning. We're going to drive down labor inflation by getting more unskilled workers here and putting pressure on the lowest skill sector we have. And they were successful, and they brag about being successful. The minority community understands that. They understand the scam and the con of what Kamala Harris has done. In addition, she has failed to do, for political reasons. The reason the First Step Act is not implemented among minorities is because Kamala Harris and Merrick Garland and Joe Biden in the White House and Nancy Pelosi understand it'd be a massive political win for President Trump. And that's why they're failing to do it. They thought they would shut down the war room and take our power away. The show is bigger and more powerful than it's ever been. And please, it's not a podcast. We take the live streaming television show every day and the radio show, and we turn it into a podcast. So my brothers and sisters at CNN, when you say the podcast number is off slightly, right? It hasn't. We were the largest podcast, but we're streaming. We stream on television, and we play on radio and online. And Nancy Pelosi thought a federal prison was going to break me. Well, it empowered me. It empowered me. I am more empowered today, more focused today, sharper today, in better shape today than I've ever been in my entire life. So Nancy Pelosi, suck on that. The desperation of Kamala Harris and her campaign is obvious. They went from the politics of joy, and we were the first ones to call it, to darkness and night falls on America, and they pivoted hard. You know why? Her incoherent explanation for what the politics of joy is befuddled everybody. So she had to go back to the same playbook. Trump's a fascist. His followers are not deplorables, they're fascist. That they're a danger to the country. Well, you know who doesn't buy this? Working class people don't buy it. And particularly African American and Hispanic men do not buy it. I had a great opportunity at Danbury, and I want to thank the Education Department of Danbury Correctional Institution for allowing me to teach, yes, civics and government. I had, I think, close to 100 students in 3 different classes. The majority, particularly the later classes, were minority men, African American, Hispanic, lots of Puerto Ricans, lots of Dominican folks in the Dominican Republic. And if you had a chance to read Vanity Fair, the cover story on our populist nationalist beliefs, you can see that it talks about economics. And it talks about the way the system works. The financial system in this country, how it's inextricably linked to the political system. And you can't understand what's going on until you understand how the economy, how the Federal Reserve, how deficits, how they play into the politics of the day. That much that you see on television is just professional wrestling when it comes to politics, and is not the thing itself. And I can report to you that these young men, most of whom are nonviolent drug offenders that have, quite frankly, a lot of years in prison. These people came to this with a new awakening, and that is the awakening the American people are going through. The system is not only broken, the system is rigged against the working class of this nation. And I saw at Danbury that we're going to move past the politics of race with an intermediate stop in the politics of gender, which is being forced on everybody right now. We're going to get to what is important, and that's the politics of money. And once we get to the politics of money, there's going to be some fundamental changes in this country. I want to thank you folks for coming. I'm far from broken, and I appreciate you guys attending. And I will tell you, if President Trump's grassroots forces combine as we can combine right now, you're going to see unbelievable numbers next Tuesday. However, the Democrats are not going to give up. They just hired Mark Elias. And you only hire Mark Elias, who I think is the toughest election lawyer in the country. You only hire Mark Elias when you want to go to the mattresses. They understand they can't beat us at the ballot box. We're going to have a reprise of 2020, where they're going to try to do everything humanly possible to nullify Trump's election and delegitimize his second term. And I can tell you right now that the working class people in this country, the middle class people in this country that support Donald John Trump are not going to let that happen. I'll take some questions.
Okay, so please introduce yourself before asking your question.
Hey, Steve. Good to see you. Tim Miller.
Tim Miller.
From the Bulwark. I was listening to your Not a Podcast this morning.
Do you have the pukas on today, or we have the pearls?
I'm clear. No
pukas and pearls. No pukas and pearls.
No pearls or pukas today. Sorry.
This is Tim Miller, one of my favorite guys from MSNBC in the Bulwark. Used to be the spokesman for the Republic. When I met Tim as a younger man, he was.
All right, so Steve Bannon bantering back and forth with some of the media right there as he is going to be answering some questions. We do have to step away for a 2-minute break here on Live Now from Fox, continuing to follow this live event. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinu. We're going to head back live to New York City as former Trump staffer Steve Bannon speaking after he was released earlier today from federal prison after serving 4 months for contempt of Congress. So he's answering some questions right now. Let's continue to listen in.
Number one. And number two, we had Bill McGinley and Mike Davis and others on to talk about the election integrity, the efforts that they're making, and quite frankly, places like Pennsylvania, that looks like the election administration is a little bit of a dumpster fire right now.
4 years ago, you urged then-President Trump to declare victory on election night, when you knew all well that there was going to be a decent chance that we would not know if the ballots had yet to be counted.
Hang on.
You went out and did exactly that. You urged him to do the same thing.
Hang on for a second. When I said that 4 years ago, it was, why did I say that? Why did I say that? Because a guy named Mark Elias came up with a report that two individuals, Bill McGinley and Raheem Kassam, helped deconstruct in July of 2020. And he walked through how the Democrat Party was going to steal the election with illegitimate mail-in ballots.
He said illegitimate ballots. They were mail ballots that American voters cast.
By the way, we can argue, we can adjudicate that. Hang on. We can argue that President Trump came up at 2:30 in the morning and talked. He should have done it at 11 o'clock at night in 2020. Okay? I am urging President Trump, if the votes come in like it looks like they're going to come in, he should step up and inform the American citizens of exactly what's going on and not keep people in the dark like was done in 2020. So President Trump should step up and walk people through state by state of where these leads are and how these leads came about. We're not prepared. We're not prepared to have in the dark of night all the problems that happened last time. Okay, the 2020 election was stolen. Okay, I will never back off that.
And we know that you wanted him to stay on as president. We know that you wanted the election.
I didn't want that. What I wanted was I wanted the will of the American people at the ballot box to be effectuated. I want the will of the American people at the ballot box to be effectuated.
Steve,
that's what I wanted.
Steve,
yes,
Robbie Roadsteamer here. I'm wondering when's the next insurrection, and can we storm the Burger King after this? Like, can we do that? I mean, doesn't he look great now? We were in Danbury the first month together. He looks great. You don't remember me? We were lifting weights and stuff in the weight room. When's the next insurrection? How are we going to do this and stuff, man? You know what? If I'm leaving, I'm having a good time. He looks like Yoda with AIDS right now. Robbie Rhodes, Stephen, no political violence, people. This place smells like awful.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Harry Lamb, Daily Beast. Mr. Bannon, in 2023, you called Elon Musk a running dog for the greatest enemy in China that America has ever had. You called him a war profiteer who's sleeping with the enemy and a globalist who would take a check from Adolf Hitler himself. I want to know whether you stand by all of that today.
Elon Musk, as you know, Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was a Democrat. Elon Musk was a very progressive Democrat. They've all become awakened by the MAGA movement. Today, I think he's one of the strongest supporters of the MAGA movement. He's gone through a awakening that I think very few have come. I totally disagree with many of his positions, particularly about the Chinese Communist Party and others. But as an American, he has done, I think, something very smart, and that is put money in back of grassroots organizations and people to do something simple.
So
and that's and that's to get out the vote here in the 2024 election.
So you don't mind someone who would take a check from Adolf Hitler as long as it supports Donald Trump?
No, what I said is he's gone through a great awakening, right? And I think if you talk to him, he has gone through a great awakening. And I think part of that awakening is understand the power of the MAGA movement and the power of grassroots America. Yes, sir.
Please identify yourself when you ask the question.
Timmy Patrioli with Politico. I'm not sure if you saw, but the mayor got indicted while you were away, and there have been members of his legal team who say that his best bet is for a Trump presidency to succeed, and then Trump to pardon the mayor. I'm curious.
So I'll repeat the question so people can hear it. So this is a question about Eric Adams.
About Eric
and
Adams.
about he thinks about Trump's. I have no earthly idea about Eric.
Idea?
Well, not about. I see what Eric Adams has been charged with, but I don't think. I think it's. I think it's.
Amenable to helping Eric Adams?
I have no earthly idea about that, and all I know is President Trump thinks that New York City, this metropolitan area, is in deep trouble. Right, rising crime. The streets are filthy. I think President Trump has not been a supporter of things dealing with Eric Adams, Mayor Adams' administration. So I don't know. You should ask President Trump that.
Steve,
Yes,
Andrew Rice from New York Magazine. What are you going to do over the next? You've got 6 days. You're out now. You've got 6 days between now and the election, and then maybe some period afterwards in which this will be still at stake. What are you going to be doing during those days besides the war room?
Well, there's a lot of different options. I'm of a strong belief right now. This is New York Magazine asking what myself and War Room's going to do. Obviously, with 7 days or 6 days left, you have to have a convergence of the get out the vote effort. I am not a huge believer in our ability to actually participate in rallies or do rallies, because right now I think President Trump does that great, and he has people along that are going to do rallies in the different states. Our focus is one thing, to make sure that we get as many American citizens either early voting while they can or to the polls next Tuesday. And so our efforts are how to scale that effort like we did today on the show and other efforts behind the scenes. So our thing is to make sure that we're there to scale the vote of get at the vote operations, and also on the election integrity. Today we had Bill McGinley, one of the senior lawyers, on there, and he's still calling for volunteers. I think there's been 200,000 election integrity volunteers. We need to get people in the counting rooms. We need to get people around the tables to do ballot curing. Okay, so there's still need for that, so we're going to call for that. So our efforts are on the election integrity efforts to where we can be supportive and then get out the vote. Yes, sir.
Peter Harrell on this ABC News. If the election is declared in favor of Vice President Kamala Harris, what exactly do you believe former President Donald Trump should do in the following 2 months? Will you unequivocally condemn political violence?
Wait, hang on. Who believes in political violence? That's a loaded question. Of course people don't believe in political violence. I was just a political prisoner of a regime that put somebody in prison for what has been a civil charge throughout the history of the country. I think, I've been told I'm the only misdemeanor that's ever been at Danbury prison. I think I'm the only misdemeanor. They told me when I was on trial in federal court in D.C. that I'm the first misdemeanor at a federal level. You know, CNN reported that wrong the other day. I'm not guilty of a felony. That was a misdemeanor. So, listen, we have to go through this election, and whoever wins the election wins the election. Okay? I think we can show we're pretty powerful in opposition, right? So if whoever wins, wins. But I can tell you right now, it's not Trump that's hiring Mark Elias. It's not Trump going to the mattresses about election integrity right now. It is Kamala Harris's campaign. And why is she doing that? Because the politics of joy was an epic fail. Now, why was it an epic fail? Because she couldn't take the narrative and actually put together a coherent set of policies that people could understand. And so she's pivoted. She's pivoted worse than Hillary Clinton. She doesn't call people deplorable. She calls them fascist. This rhetoric is dangerous. It's dangerous, and all they're doing is ratcheting it up. and you're going to see the working class people in this country, the middle class people in this country, that are in back of the greatest political comeback in American political history, are going to say, whoever wins this election wins this election. Yes, sir.
My name is Joe the Box. I'm with the America First Warehouse, part of Real America Boys. 1,392 days have been since Ashley Babbitt was shot and murdered at the Capitol. 820 days, Mickey Witkoff, Nicole Reffett sit outside the gulag next to the...
Can we get a question?
The question is this, sir.
Yes,
what
sir.
can we tell them? Because now, 315 in jail, 314 today. What can we tell them to expect?
Here's what I think. If you look downrange for a second of President Trump's second term, that commences on January 20th. Look at what's going to happen. Number one, the debt ceiling. We hit the debt ceiling almost immediately. Number two, you have the expiration of President Trump's tax cuts. Number three, the government runs out of money December 20th. It looks like it's not going to be an omnibus. President Trump has to deal with a massive fiscal crisis, okay, economic and fiscal crisis. In addition, you need to start to do what Kamala Harris failed to do.
All right, so we are listening to Steve Bannon right there, speaking with reporters after he was released from federal prison after 4 months, for contempt of Congress.